after suspending their campaigns because of the terror attacks in the south. French presidential candidates are back on the election trail. Polls show that President Nicolas Sarkozy has benefited politically from the crisis, gaining ground in opinion polls. But analysts say it's too early to tell how the Toulouse shootings will affect next month's election.
After calling a political truce in the wake of the Toulouse shootings, France's presidential candidates have returned to the campaign trail. And despite calling for national unity, the spirit of their temporary peace has already dissipated. The first to speak out was the far-right Marine Le Pen, who sharply criticized the government.
I think that the risk of fundamentalism has been underestimated in our country.
Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande each held major rallies for the first time since Monday's school shooting, and the president hit back at the attacks on his administration.
Pointing fingers at politics, at French institutions, it's not right. It's not acting responsibly in a moment when the nation needs unity.
Socialist François Hollande, in turn, accused his rivals of taking the wrong approach.
Once again, the far right is trying to mix up the issues. The right is accusing the left of turning this into something political. This makes no sense.
He'll likely try to shift the focus away from insecurity and immigration.
We know that the French are very worried about the consequences of the economic crisis. We know that the main concerns of the French have to do with their purchasing power, jobs, social inequalities, housing, none of which are related to insecurity.
Polls show that Sarkozy has gained ground in the wake of the attacks, but far-left challenger Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's also seen a surprising surge in the polls, is accusing his rivals of being vultures feeding at the scene of crimes. He's one of the only candidates who did not suspend his campaign as the Toulouse tragedy unfolded.
Well, I'm now joined by Florence Villeminot. I hope I said that correctly.
You sure did.
For more details on the presidential campaign. Now, there was a truce, of course, after the Toulouse shootings, but they've all gone back in and they're off again.
Yep, it's running full steam, and according to Les Echos, the business paper, it was a very short-lived truce. The campaign is in full swing just hours after the death of Mohamed Merah. Now, both frontrunners, as we saw in that little video there, Nicolas Sarkozy held a rally in Strasbourg, François Hollande held a rally in Aurillac, and it's interesting to note that their political teams are also very much in full swing, launching attacks and jabs at each other, with mainly on Twitter and press releases. And a lot of their attacks has to do with just who broke the truce, because this is what everyone's saying. Like, the truce is over, but who in fact broke it? And so according to the Socialist Party, it's the UMP spokesperson Jean-François Copé who broke the truce by talking about everyone should maintain their dignity and all this. But the UMP blames the socialists, mainly Socialist MP Jean-Jacques Urvoas, who criticized the SWAT operation on Twitter. Another socialist MP, also on Twitter, called for the Interior Minister Claude Guéant to step down. So it's a little bit of a, he said, she said. Who in fact stopped the truce? That's pretty much what they're fighting about right now.
Okay, now, of course, the main consequence of the Toulouse shooting is that it's going to put national security right at the forefront of the presidential election.
That's right, and there's an article in Le Figaro that looks at how François Hollande is reacting to the Toulouse incident. Now, he says, while he was speaking in Aurillac, the socialist candidate said that he wants to turn the page, but says that we can't forget. And he says that the best way to fight terrorism is with democratic values. So, in a way, he's answering to a proposal that Nicolas Sarkozy put forward yesterday. The French president proposed a sweeping law that would see people who visit extremist websites put behind bars. Now, this is would be a similar law to one that exists to punish people who go on pedophile websites. And now Hollande says that this proposal would be unrealistic. A lot of people are also saying that this proposal would be unconstitutional and in breach of a lot of human rights. And Libération looks at how Nicolas Sarkozy is dealing with the aftermath of the Toulouse incident. Now, according to the left-leaning paper, when it comes to questions of national security, Nicolas Sarkozy is in his element. The left-leaning newspaper says that it's back to basics for the president. This is his home turf somewhat, and that he's not going to hesitate to hammer home the central themes of his campaign, one of which is to reduce immigration.
Well, it does seem like Sarkozy's definitely done well off the back of this in terms of popularity, but far-left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon's continuing to surge in the polls.
Which is interesting because this whole idea of national security has really come to the forefront. So I think a lot of people would have expected Marine Le Pen, the far-right candidate, to gain a lot from the Toulouse incidents. But it turns out that the far-left candidate, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who didn't stop his campaign during the truce, he's come forward, according to a poll published today for a BVA poll for Orange. He's come in third place with 14%. He would, according to this poll, and during the first round, he would get 14%, right behind François Hollande, who, no, sorry, the first would be François Hollande with 29.5%, Nicolas Sarkozy with 28%, then Jean-Luc Mélenchon with 14%, and then Marine Le Pen. So it's interesting to note that even though national security has come forward as one of the central themes of the campaign, the economy is still very important, so Mélenchon is still around.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely hotting up now. Thank you very much, Florence Filmano, for our Campaign Chronicles update. Stay with us. We've got a break coming up, but afterwards, culture and fashion luxury brand